Hello everyone, this is Matt from Railworld Review, and today is week 8 of Let's Talk. If you don't know what Let's Talk is, pretty much what it is I go over my Google feed, I select 3 articles, and I talk to you guys about those. In this week, the camera that I'm using is a Pixel XL at 1080p at 60 frames per second. So let's get started. The first article comes from The Verge, and it's talking about how SanDisk and Micron are releasing the first 1TB SD cards. Well, micro SD cards. This is a pretty simple article, obviously just talking about how they're releasing a 1TB micro SD card. The interesting thing is it says that the SanDisk card will have a read speed of 160 megabytes per second, while the Microns will have 100 megabytes per second. Right after that, it states that the Micron card will actually have a higher write performance at 95 megabytes per second, which is kind of interesting, and that's pretty much all you should care about is the write speed. The read speed does matter a little bit. Actually, in this case, it might matter a lot, but the write speed is what most people are going to be using it for. It doesn't say how much the Micron cards are going to be, but $450 for the SanDisk 1TB card. In comparison to that, it says that the 512 gigabyte SanDisk card can be purchased right now for $200. So yeah, that is twice as much space for a little over twice as much as the price. I saw this earlier and it said that it was going to be released at $500, but now it says it's going to be released at $450, so that's kind of a good thing. It also says that Micron is going to price theirs competitively, so we'll see what happens there. Even though the write speed will be higher, if I were to buy one, I'd probably buy the SanDisk one. It is pretty crazy that they can fit it in such a small size, especially when you have a phone like the Samsung Note 9 that barely has 512 gigabytes. And then obviously you have the S10 Plus that has 1TB, but still, to see a 1TB micro SD card is kind of crazy. I'm still waiting for the 2TB card because then, actually I won't ruin the surprise. Never mind. The next article is from The Verge as well, and it's talking about how the Google Pixel 3 Lite may have just passed the FCC. So the first paragraph is talking about some important things. There's no talks about price, there's no talk about release dates, and the fact that they weren't at MWC leads them to believe that they are not going to be releasing it anytime soon, but hopefully this year they will. And honestly, if that's the case, I don't think this is going to sell that well. It talks about how there's FCC filings for the G020A through H, and only one of those filings says that it'll run on Android 9.0 Pie. Moving on to the end of it, most of it is just speculation, but they talk about the fact that there may or may not be a headset jack on this one, and Google wants these files to remain confidential until August 24th, which is interesting. That leads most people to believe that it will be released near the end of the year, which is a little bit disappointing if it's a Pixel 3 Lite, but if it's a Pixel 4 Lite, that's also a little bit strange too. My take on this is that it seems a little bit disappointing that they're doing this. I mean, you had Sony who came out with a compact phone, just pretty much a smaller version of their flagship phones, and they didn't really change anything on those, and those weren't really that popular. So maybe Google thinks that these are going to be more popular. I don't know. All I know is that if Google makes this a Pixel 3 Lite and they make it weaker than Pixel 3 or weaker than Pixel 4, if it's supposed to be a Pixel 4 Lite, they're not going to sell that well. But who knows? Motorola does the same thing with their Play editions, and those sell really well. And the last article is from Engadget, which I did not read, and it's talking about comparing the Galaxy Fold, Huawei Mate X, and the Royale Flex Pi. Or is it Huawei Mate 10? I don't know. Either way, let's see what we're looking at. So we're looking at the Galaxy Fold, the Huawei Mate 10, and the Royale Flex Pi. The Galaxy Fold is in the middle of the pricing at $1,980, with the Huawei Mate 10 at $2,600. And the Flex Pi ranging from $1,318 to $1,469. These are all US dollars, just so you know. There's no dimensions for the Galaxy Fold or the weight for the Galaxy Fold, but the Mate 10 and the Royale Flex Pi are pretty heavy, with the Mate 10 being lighter at 295 grams, and the Flex Pi being 320 grams. I don't understand what they mean by the thickness. I don't know if that means while it's open or while it's closed, but 0.3 inches seems pretty small, so it's probably when they're open. The screen size is interesting because the Mate 10 has an 8-inch screen, the Flex Pi has a 7.8-inch screen, and the Galaxy Fold has 2 screens, one being 7.3 inches and the front one being 4.6 inches. The pixel density is about the same at 414 pixels per inch, except for the Flex Pi that has 308 pixels per inch. They all essentially have a flexible OLED screen, so that's not too surprising. The battery size is pretty much the same, except for the Flex Pi is less than 4,000 milliamps, so that might be disappointing. Internal storage is 512 gigabytes, except for the Flex Pi that comes at 128 or 256 gigabytes. but it does take a memory card. I can't remember what the NM card is, but I'm pretty sure it's some proprietary Huawei card, so that's a little bit disappointing. I think I know why, but that's still a little bit disappointing. Then the rear cameras are all over the place. The Galaxy Fold has a triple camera setup with an ultra wide, wide angle, and a telephoto lens. And the Huawei Mate 10 has a wide angle 40 megapixel lens, ultra wide angle 16 megapixel lens, and a telephoto 8 megapixel lens. The FlexPi has a telephoto 20 megapixel and a wide angle 16 megapixel. Obviously, none of that matters until you actually see which one takes better pictures. And the front cameras don't really matter that much as well, except for the fact that the Galaxy Fold has a screen on the front, so you would need some extra cameras on the front, so then you can do selfies or whatever you want to do. It says video capture at 4K at 30 frames per second for all of those, but that doesn't make sense because of the processors. I would assume that it does capture 4K at 60 frames per second. Maybe that was just a front camera, but even then, that's still kind of strange. And then the FlexPi and the Galaxy Fold come with a Snapdragon 855 processor, and the Huawei Mate 10 has their own Kirin 980, which is comparable. As for RAM, you have 12 gigabytes on the Galaxy Fold, 8 gigabytes on the Mate 10, and 6 or 8 gigabytes on the FlexPi. Wi-Fi seems to be the same. NFC is oddly missing on the FlexPi. Bluetooth is also the same. The operating system is also the same. And all three of them take USB-C charging. The interesting thing is that the Galaxy Fold is the only one with wireless charging. So if I had to pick one of these, I might say the FlexPi would be a pretty good price. But overall, the Galaxy Fold seems to be a pretty good device. I mean, yeah, it doesn't have external storage, but 12 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of storage, you know, a pretty similar battery, pretty similar screen, double the screens of the Huawei Mate 10. And I guess this pricing actually makes it look pretty decent, but obviously $2,000, that is a lot of money, but I guess Huawei saw that and said, people are going to spend more. I don't know. I'm still trying to decide what I would buy. I mean, this is crazy. But that's all I wanted to talk about. The links will be in the description below, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or disagree on my opinions or whatever it may be, let me know in the comment section or on Twitter at MattofRWR, and feel free to follow me on the social media listed above. Also, subscribe to my channel so you can see more videos like this and other review videos as well. And hit that bell button so then YouTube actually reminds you when those videos do come out. Thanks for watching.